Hey, good day. I wanted to do a quick video on how to mend a crack. One of my students' pots got a little crack there and maybe a little one right there. I want to show you how to mend a crack on green ware. It's dry, has to be dry. We're going to use a little bit of mineral oil. You can use baby oil. It works. A little bit of toilet paper. The cheaper the toilet paper, the better. This stuff is not that cheap. And then a little bit of clay that's really hydrated and gonna make it a little bit softer than this. Gonna start by putting the mineral oil or baby oil in the crack. I kind of like baby oil better, but this is what I have today. And this mineral oil or baby oil will help the clay from hydrating too much when we put this clay paste on the crack and get it to kind of seal up. So I've soaked that really well. Yep, there are 2 cracks there. It's just a drying crack. This clay is notorious for drying and cracking around the lip area. It's mostly sand is what it is. It's a very sandy clay, but it's a kind of a plasticky sandy clay. A lot of times the reasons why you get a crack is the uneven thickness in the wall. You got a thin area and like another thin area there, and then you got a thick area on either side, and the thin areas dry quick, and then the thick areas start to dry and pull on those thin areas, and then that'll make a crack. And this mineral oil is kind of highlighting how far down this crack goes. So I don't know if it's going to work. Sometimes this is only good for certain clays and certain size cracks, but we'll give it a try. And this is going to be in a pit fire, so the temperature is very uneven, and that could also make it still crack, but we'll give it a shot. So I'm gonna let this soak in and come back in a second. All right, so I've let this pot warm up in the sun, and the oil has absorbed into the wall and the cracks, and should be ready. I've let it cool down. You must let it cool down. If you don't, sometimes it can get a little thermal shock when you start putting water on your pot. So got the toilet paper, and you only need a little bit of toilet paper. I'm gonna split it and soak it in the water here and kind of just get it all mushed up. So the toilet paper is basically a bunch of little fibers, and the fibers will help the fresh clay mend onto the wall of the pot and into the crack area. And as it dries against the already dry clay, it kind of does this as it dries, and those little fibers kind of bond and hold on to your surface and mend over the crack. But you want to make sure you get it pretty well blended up. Then I'm going to take this piece of really hydrated clay and mix it with the paper fiber. So we're making paper clay, and they sell paper clay commercially. If you wanted to do a more traditional kind of application, maybe use cattail fibers, not the cat as in a cat, house cat, but the cattail reed, the fluff off the end of the seed pod fluff. That stuff works pretty well as kind of like a paper clay. I know the Aztecs employed that quite a bit in some of their pottery, and they make those great big wide flat tortilla bowl things that are pretty amazing. So I'm gonna add just a little bit more. I don't have a real plan I follow. I rarely do this, but I have done it. It works better with some clays. This brown clay is so-so. It works all right. So just gonna apply that on there. And there might be some discoloration this clay has some sand in it, so that's gonna show up on the surface. If you have a real nice fine clay, that's where this will probably work a lot better. And then if you cover it over with a like a slip terra sigillate or something like that, then you would probably not see the crack at all because it'd be hidden below all of that. Also, on the mineral oil is a little bit thicker than baby oil, even though they're both mineral oils. The baby oil absorbs in a lot faster than the mineral oil, just because it's a lot thinner than the mineral oil is. So let that kind of set up, and then every few minutes just kind of rub some more in there, and so we'll see how this works. But if you want to, save a pot that you really like, and maybe you're going to sell it, maybe you're not going to sell it, but this does work. Every once in a while I'm in a jam and something will crack along the lip, and I can fix it up and mend it, and no one can ever tell that it was ever there. So we'll let that dry, and then I'll smooth it out a little bit more and see what happens. Okay, here it is, sealed up. A little bit rougher texture on the outside. And on the inside, there's still some oil. Keep in mind, this oil, if you're preheating in your house oven or in a kiln that's enclosed in a garage or something, it will smoke. It smokes quite a bit. It is mineral oil. Vegetable oil I do not suggest using because of the sugars in there kind of repel some of the clay from sticking, but we'll give it a shot. We'll fire it up and see what happens. Okay, this is where the cracks were. You could just barely make out a faint line is where they were. They never really go away. And this is the inside. You can see I should have probably wiped the whole bowl because it did have some discoloration there. And then the inside, you could just barely see a faint line as to where one was. But for the most part, it's pretty much saved and could be on the shelf. It's a student's pot. Nobody will ever know. I gotta wash this thing off. Came out pretty good. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to Tony Soares Native Clays on YouTube.